Did you notice the iPhone Fold dummy looks more like a tiny iPad than a phone? A 10-minute dummy tour just exposed Apple's wide, passport-like shape, the chunkiest camera bump yet, and a table wobble problem you can't ignore. Here's how it stacks up against the Pixel Fold and the iPad Pro. A new dummy unit video gave us the clearest look yet at Apple's first foldable iPhone. It opens, it closes, and it reveals choices that feel bold, weird, and maybe brilliant. Today we're talking about the wide design, the bump, and the Crease Tech. Over the past few weeks, we've seen plenty of photos of iPhone Fold dummy units floating around online. But still, photos don't answer the real questions, like how wide it feels, where the buttons land, and whether the whole thing looks elegant or awkward when it actually moves. That's why the hands-on video from Unbox Therapy matters. It isn't the final iPhone Fold, but it is the kind of reference model accessory makers rely on, and it gives us a much more believable sense of the proportions. And the first impression is simple: Apple is going wide. When it's closed, the dummy looks shorter and squatter than most book-style foldables. The host even compares it to a passport, and honestly, that vibe is hard to unsee. It's not tall and skinny like the Z Fold line. And even next to Google's Foldable, which already avoids the super narrow cover screen approach, the iPhone Fold dummy still looks noticeably more compact vertically. So why would Apple do this? The biggest upside is comfort. A shorter device tends to sit in the hand better, and it can avoid that top-heavy feeling that some tall foldables get, especially when you're using them one-handed. That top heaviness isn't just a vibe problem. It affects how safe the phone feels when you're walking, typing, or pulling it out of your pocket. And speaking of pockets, the short and wide approach could make this thing feel more pocketable than some other foldables that basically demand a jacket. A lot of people love the idea of a foldable, then bail the moment they realize it's a brick in jeans. A compact height might be Apple's way of making the form factor feel normal. But the cover display question is real. A wide, squat outer screen can feel unusual for scrolling, messaging, and reading. Apps that are designed around tall rectangles might look odd. And if the keyboard ends up too stretched, typing could feel like your thumbs are doing the splits. The dummy can't tell us software behavior, but it can show us the shape Apple is committing to. Now open it up, and the wide idea starts making more sense. The internal screen is expected to be around 7.8 inches. That's right in the small tablet zone, and it's close enough to iPad territory that people are already calling it an iPad Nano. Next to an iPad Pro, the design language lines up in a way that feels very Apple. Flat sides, confident edges, and that this is a slam presence. The wide internal display also helps with video. On many foldables, watching movies can mean thick black bars because the aspect ratio is too square or too tall. A wider canvas can reduce those bars and make films feel more cinematic. So if Apple's betting that people will actually watch content on the inside screen, going wide is a smart move. But the dummy shows a few quirks that immediately stand out. First, the volume buttons. They're on the top, like an iPad. On a phone, that's a head scratcher. Depending on how you hold it, you might love it, or you might keep hitting the wrong control. It could be Apple trying to make the unfolded orientation feel default, almost like you're meant to treat it as a mini tablet first and a phone second. Second, the speakers. The grills are placed diagonally opposite when the device is unfolded, with one on the top left area and the other on the bottom right. That can be good for stereo separation, but it also depends on how your hands cover them when gaming or watching videos. Again, we won't know until real units and real reviews, but the layout is unusual enough that it's worth flagging. The USB-C port and the power button are closer to what you'd expect on a normal iPhone layout, so at least some of the muscle memory might carry over. But then we get to the part everybody notices instantly. The camera bump is huge. Not big for an iPhone huge. It's thick enough that the dummy looks like it's wearing a backpack. In the folded state, this iPhone Fold dummy is said to be about 11 millimeters thick, and then the camera bump adds around 5.5 millimeters. That puts the total at roughly 16.5 millimeters at its thickest point, which is a serious chunk. And the wild part is that the thinnest point is reportedly around 5.2 millimeters, even thinner than the iPhone Air's rumored 5.6 millimeters. So Apple might be shaving the body thin, then stacking a massive camera module on top like, yeah, deal with it. Now here's where the dummy video becomes genuinely useful, because you can see the real-world consequence: wobble. Set it on a flat surface, and it rocks. Not a tiny wiggle, a real, annoying instability. That's not just a nitpick. If you've ever tried to type on a phone that's wobbling on a desk, you know it gets old in 5 seconds. It's also a hint that the camera module is not only thick, but shaped in a way that doesn't distribute contact well. Could Apple fix that on the final product? Sure. The bump could change, the dimensions could shift, and case use could mask it. But the dummy shows the direction, and the direction says, Apple is prioritizing camera hardware, even if it makes the foldable feel less stable on a table. So how does it compare to the Pixel Fold style? Google's foldables are already more normal on the outside than Samsung's tall, narrow approach. But the iPhone Fold dummy looks even more compact in height and wider in proportion. If you like the Pixel's cover display because it feels usable, you might like Apple's direction. If you prefer tall screens for reading and scrolling, you might hate it. This is one of those design choices that will instantly split people. And then there's the iPad Pro comparison. Seeing it next to an iPad makes the whole plan feel clearer. Apple might be merging the iPhone and iPad experience into one device, not by making a phone that becomes a tablet, but by making a mini iPad that happens to fold into a phone shape. That's a different vibe, and it would explain the button placement choices, the proportions, and the iPad Nano nickname. Now, the dummy can't show us performance, battery life, camera quality, or durability. It's a physical reference, but it does connect to the other big topic, the crease. For years, the story has been that Apple wouldn't ship a foldable until it could reduce the crease dramatically. And now there's growing talk that Apple has a 3-part approach to doing it. A new hinge, redesigned glass layers, and a special adhesive. The hinge is the big one. Reports point to a titanium and liquid metal hinge design. The pitch is durability and tension control. The better the hinge spreads stress across the fold, the less the display forms that permanent wrinkle over time. If Apple actually solved this in a way that holds up after thousands of folds, that becomes a major selling point, because the crease is still the first thing people look for when they try a foldable. Then there's the display structure itself. The claim is multiple layers of ultra-thin glass with variable thickness. Thinner at the center where it bends, thicker toward the edges for protection. That's basically Apple doing what it always does. Engineering complexity that users never see, so the surface feels simple and premium. And finally, the adhesive, optically clear adhesive or OCA. The idea is that it stays fluid enough to fill microscopic gaps and reduce visible distortions that become creases. Over time, stress and tiny deformations can scatter light and make the crease pop visually. If the adhesive can minimize that effect and keep the fold line less noticeable, it helps the phone look new longer. Now, even if all of that works, there's still the issue of price. The talk is a September launch alongside the iPhone 18 Pro line with a price over $2,000. That puts it right into this needs to be perfect territory. People will accept a premium foldable price only if the software feels flawless, multitasking feels natural, and the durability feels like it can survive real daily use. iOS 27, likely shown at Worldwide Developers Conference 2026, could be where Apple reveals how serious it is about making the foldable format feel native, not tacked on. So after watching this dummy unit tour, here's the big takeaway. Apple's foldable isn't trying to copy Samsung. It is not even trying to copy Google. It's doing its own wide, mini tablet-first design, and it's making at least one aggressive trade-off: a seriously chunky camera bump that causes real wobble. If the final product keeps that bump, Apple will need a plan, because people will talk about it non-stop. But if the wide design nails comfort, pocketability, and video viewing, and the crease actually stays minimal over time, Apple might have a foldable that feels less like a novelty and more like a daily driver. The dummy isn't the final word, but it's the first time the shape feels real. Here's my bet. Apple's wide foldable is going to feel amazing in the hand and absolutely infuriating on a desk. That's the trade-off the dummy unit makes impossible to ignore. Over the next few months, watch for two things: whether Apple shrinks that camera bump, and whether iOS adds true foldable first features instead of stretched phone apps. If the crease really stays near invisible, people will forgive a lot. If the wobble stays, they will not. Either way, this is the first foldable that actually looks like an Apple product, not an experiment. So, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more exciting tech news and updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.